Hi, I'm Darren Gough and welcome to my new cricket show. For those of you who don't know me, I used to play a little bit of cricket for Yorkshire, Essex in England. I was a talkSPORT presenter, MD of cricket at Yorkshire, but most people probably know me for being that dancer on Strictly Come Dancing. I played in 4 Ashes series, 2 at home and 2 away, and I never was on the winning side in an Ashes series. I never had that pleasure of lifting that little urn. So what we're going to do, we're going to do 10 shows on how to win an Ashes series. Whether it be captaincy, whether it be handling pressure, whether it's dealing with that outside noise from the media, Australian media, English media, or the fans' expectancy home and away. So, what do England need to do to lift that little urn in January at the SCG? This is how to win the Ashes. Well, first test didn't go well, did it? And now the England team are going to have to deal with even more external noise from the press and former players, as well as Aussies and angry England fans. And that's what this show is all about. Dealing with the pressure. Right, Army, I want to talk about dealing with pressure because we've both been lucky enough, I'd like to say, or we deserve that chance, to bowl the first ball of an Ashes series. I've done it a couple of times. I think you've done it a couple of times. Let's start with you because it's more interesting than mine, first ball. 2005, you bowled the first over at Lord's, and it's still talked about to this day for the reasons you set the tone. And then you also bowled that ball in, sorry, I can't stop laughing, 2006, where you didn't take the cut bit. And you always get taught to use the facilities, and you didn't manage to use them. So tell me the difference in mindset at 2005 and then just 8 months later, whatever, 2006.
I think there's a whole package of it, and we haven't got time to go deep delving into it, but preparation is massive. So pressure's only something that comes in when you know you're not right. 2005, I was right. I played with you in the one-day series before that. You know, we played
top of your game.
Yeah, I was at top of the game. I played 4 first-class matches for Durham. The start of the season, took 35 wickets. I mean, I was the leading wicket taker in the country by a mile and played half the games when it comes to be ready for that first over. It was the first time I'd ever taken the first over for England. I don't know why it changed. Hogarth always took the first over. Well, so I'd never done it before.
Let me ask you on that. I know why you took the first ball. Because of what happened in the one-day series. We're trying to hit them and shoot, because play with aggression. Yeah. And you were our quickest bowler, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why you bowled the first over. I'll tell you why.
So that was it, and I was ready for that. But I think the most important part of this conversation is about dealing with pressure. And I always felt as though I could deal with pressure, not a problem. I still can. I still could. You know, that first ball in Brisbane was about preparation, a little bit about pressure. I mean, if you want to talk about that being cracking under pressure, I mean, Sydney was 5 test matches away. Sydney was 20-odd days away. I never missed a day. Didn't come off once. So if pressure was something that you could say was like cracking under, I'd have been home. I would have been home by Adelaide, second test match. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, if pressure was massive and I felt as though the pressure was going to gobble me up, you know, Andrew Flintoff talked about it when he talked to me a few weeks ago when we were talking about his book, and he said he knew, he could see in my eyes that we wasn't quite right. And I'd missed I'd played 1 game at a month's preparation going into it. I was nowhere near fit. I think I took 1 wicket before the 3rd test match. I just wasn't. It wasn't until sort of it took me like 100 odd overs to get ready.
Because you were someone that didn't need to bowl.
Didn't need to bowl. I mean, where Simon was a bit like Mark Wood, bang off it, bang. You were a little bit. You were being a lot. Sort of. It took me 3 weeks. It took Simon 2 days. It took you maybe a week. It took Hoggy maybe 2 weeks. All pressure comes from not being prepared. I wasn't prepared in Brisbane. I was prepared for the occasion, not a problem. You know, by this time, I'd been number 1 in the world. I'd been part of the best team in the world. I'd won the Ashes already. That wasn't pressure. I could handle that pressure bit. I wasn't prepared. And the prepared bit put me under pressure. And I think all that come together, I'll try too hard. What happens when you try too hard and you're not quite right? It goes a little bit all over.
You see, if you were prepared mentally, I said, not saying you cracked under pressure, because I know you didn't. I know what you're like as a personality. But because you were underprepared, by bowling that the first ball, normally if you were prepared, you'd just laugh at that and say, look, it just slipped out, it's going to happen. But then because you didn't feel as though you were ready to play in a test match and not had enough overs under your belt, it makes the next ball even harder, doesn't it?
And it was a bouncer. It went over the top of Langer's head. But the cracking under pressure bit, I bowled 15 overs that day. So if you're going to go and the pressure's got to you and you've cracked under pressure, you ain't bowling a second over. Never mind. You might not even bowl a second ball. Oh, something's gone. I'm fetlock. I'm off. I'll see you later. So the preparation is the key. Pressure is, for a professional sportsman, for an elite player, for somebody that's playing at the very highest level, pressure's nothing. Preparation is everything. Because you should be able to close your eyes, run up and go, bang, there, I'm ready. I couldn't do that. I wasn't ready. And you'll had it in your time. You know, why do you play against universities at the start of the season and a freezing cold? Because you need overs to get under your belt. Why do you go on pre-season tours? All this stuff. Modern day has talked about it. You know, Ben's just called Beefy and Gucci and all them has-beens because they talked about the preparation. England have been preparing. England have been Loughborough, they've been preparing away from it. There's nothing substitutes.
I still don't think enough, though.
I don't think they have.
I think preparation hasn't been as ideal as it should be. It's somewhere in between.
And it's about to show. The preparation for me is more important because if you're an elite sportsman or woman, you can handle pressure. I mean, you were one of the best. You were one of the best I ever seen when it comes to pressure. You know, 10 to win, England.
I want the ball.
Anywhere you want, your chest coming out.
Yeah, don't bother who's bowling. I look at it.
That's not pressure to you.
No, because the way I look at it, Army, is there's no pressure on me.
No.
Pressure's on the batter because I think in my mind, but if we win this game from this situation, I'm the hero, right? I'm the one everybody claps off. If I don't and we lose, everybody claps off the batter because he's just hit me for 10. So that's the way I handled it because like even at Lords, I'm running into bowl, everybody's watching me, 20,000 people. So I'm obviously nervous energy, right? There's nervous energy. All of us have it. You've got to have nervous energy. If you ain't got any, there's something wrong with you. You're dead, basically. So there's nervous energy. I'm thinking I'm running, ball a good delivery, swings away, batter leaves it, goes through to the keeper. Everybody claps, right? Walk back to the mat, next ball. If I run in and I bowl a decent delivery and the batter just leans on one and hits it through the covers for 4, what does everybody do in the crowd? They're all watching the batter.
Yeah.
And they're clapping the batter. They're not bothered about my delivery. They're clapping the batter because they're all watching him.
But what I'm talking about is right at the very end of the game. You were very good at the end of the game because you could hit that white line 6 out of 6. Now, that wasn't natural to me. That was something that you practiced. You prepared yourself for. You and Andrew Flintoff, two of the best death bowlers that England have ever produced. Talk about going at Yorkers, going at the white line. No matter what you needed off the last over, Gough, Flintoff, they knew how to do it. I couldn't do it. It didn't become natural to me. So I never practiced that. But it was your preparation would be, give me the ball, I'll stick my chest out and I'll bowl 6 Yorkers 6 out of 6.
That was when mine and Flintoff's skills. Your skills were different skills to.
But you were prepared for that skill. And I think the preparation side far outweighs anything you can do about cracking under pressure. The cracking under pressure bit, I mean, I think that's about how you get to that point. You get to a nervous point. And if you're prepared, you'll nail it. If you're not prepared, you won't nail it. And I think that's how you... That's, if you want inverted commas, to handle pressure. Make sure you're prepared for it.
All right, I want to ask you one question because I probably know what the answer is going to be here. Because I speak to a lot of people now, and my wife works in wellbeing, and she does a lot of breathwork stuff and about calming everything down, your heart rate, your mind that's rushing and everything. And also visualisation. That is something that I definitely, absolutely 100% did when I played cricket. I'm not sure you probably did those sort of stuff. So breathwork, visualisation, you never did anything like that?
No, the breathwork stuff I didn't think was around at that time. like 20 years ago when we were playing, I don't think anybody spoke of that. The breath work stuff,
Well,
the visualization.
Yeah, but you could do breath work.
Yeah, but at the
It's
time,
always been there. You've always had breath.
Yeah, I know, but we didn't.
Otherwise, you're dead.
But it wasn't spoke about in a way to sort of
Deep breaths. It was more just deep breath. Yeah.
So take 10. You know, if you can take 3 deep breaths and then not count to 10, you'll be all right. And it's like old wives' tales, wasn't it? But then the what you're talking about there, the visualization bit, there was a little bit, but not much. But I mean, great story. I struggled at Old Trafford, had an absolute shocker. I kept down leg side, going down leg side for some reason. 2 balls and over, bang down leg side, bang down leg side. Just couldn't get it going. And I got put with one of the golf putting coaches that night time. And he just said to me, and what he did was, he said to me, and it worked. Brilliant, it worked. And he just said, your head's down all the time. You know, get your head up. Pick a point above the side screen. Once you've let go of the ball, turn around, pick a point. Don't deviate anything and just look at that point. Keep your head up, good thoughts going in all the way. And the next day I did it and it worked brilliant. And I felt more positive, more in control. And yeah, but the problem was, I mean, it must have been the alcoholic in me because it was the black and yellow Wolf Blast sign above the side screen. So I spent the whole day looking at Wolf Blast. So I turned round after every ball at Old Trafford. I think it was against West Indies. I turned round, got to the past the stumps, past the umpire, and I just stared at the black sign, Wolf Blast, black and yellow sign, and I just stared at it, got to the top of my mark and let it go. So I think after that point, I knew that there was something in it where, taking your mind away from, getting your head down.
Good job you said everything Taylor. You'd never got it out of your mind.
I never got it out of my mind.
You don't drink wine, so you'll be all right.
I was all right. But as well as that, and, the visualisation from a fun side of it, I mean, in Brisbane, you're thinking, right, Langer's, he's waiting for that short ball, isn't he? So you pitch it up, you swing it in, you take it away from the bat, and you get him to nick it, or you bring the ball back onto off stump, and visualising-wise, I got about 95% of it spot on. I just missed him out, didn't I? It went to slip, so no. But it was visualisation, that side of it, I don't think was as serious as what it is now. I think it helps now, and it probably helped then. I just don't think, with hell of a lot of other tutorials that you get around handling what it's like to be a sportsman or woman in the modern day game, living with 24-hour sports news, living with social media, living with everything like that, I think there's a lot more coping mechanisms to help. And them things were there, but they weren't really taken that serious, I don't think.
Let's now move on with another former fast bowler, Steven Finn. Finny, want to talk about the pressure, right? And pressure of playing, especially in an Ashes series. It's the biggest series of all. We all know that. We grow up wanting to play in an Ashes series, play for England, but if you could play one test match, it would be against Australia, right? So with that comes pressure. So how did you deal with pressure overall to start with?
I think that my first taste of Ashes cricket, I was young, I was 21. So I kind of approached it with a naivety about what I was walking into. People warned me before, having been there 4 years previously and been hammered in 2006 and 2007. I had people warning me, telling me it was going to be tough. As soon as you walk off the plane, it's going to be horrible. We've seen that with Ben Stokes this week. He's already front page news in the West Australian. And you're kind of half prepared for it. But I got there just with this wide-eyed naivety of, I'm going to try and soak it all in. I kind of presumed at 21 years old that this wouldn't be my last bite of the cherry in terms of going on an Ashes tour. So I saw it as an opportunity to learn. And as it goes, they were the only test matches that I did play in Australia at 21 years old. But I think it served me relatively well to have no real preconceived ideas or baggage going into the first time that I went there. But it's certainly a different pressure. When you walk off that plane, you do feel it.
Do you know, exactly the same thing. I went to Australia. It was I played my own test series. I played 2 or 3 tests against South Africa. And then I went to Australia and I was exactly the same. Everybody told me about it, but I was sat in between Gooch and Gat on the flight, because there's 3 seats then, right? And I was sat in between them, Gooch, Gat and Gough, right? And then we got to Australia, they kept telling me all these stories, and I didn't believe it. We walked out there, and it is like, compared to everywhere else you go, the media, it's just like a scrum, isn't it? Just everybody's in your face, flashing lights, cameras, and you suddenly think, oh, this is all right, my first tour. You feel part of it. It actually doesn't really affect you when you first go, because you think, this is brilliant.
Yeah, I certainly, that first tour, one of the things that we made an effort to do was enjoy being there, because it is an amazing country, even though there's the pressure of the Ashes, and the public enjoy telling you that you're going to lose quite frequently whilst you're out there as well. But we and I made an effort to enjoy being in Australia, whereas I think when I went back subsequently, it was more of a, you're not to make any headlines, you're going to shield yourselves away and going to keep everyone out of the firing line in order to not create that external noise, which in turn created more external noise. So yeah, I think the way that we dealt with it in 2010-11 was definitely to embrace the country, embrace the challenge, and just approach it trying to push back against Australia. And we did it pretty well in 2010.
So for you and handling pressure, everybody handles it different, right? And we all have these psychologists tell us when you go into an Ashes series, any other series, control the controllable, flush the toilet. We had all that. For me, right, it confused me even more. I just like to do it myself. I'm quite simple in that way. I just like to just get out there, good or bad. I deal with it my way, you know. That's the way I did it. So for you, when did you handle pressure well as a cricketer? When did it work for you? Been under pressure and it worked for you and you were at your best and you were confident. How did it work for you?
I managed to sort of kind of turn those feelings into an excitement. So you're nervous, and you're nervous before every game of cricket that you play for England, or I certainly was. But when I was good, I managed to turn those nerves into an excitement to go out there and show off almost, and show what you can do. And at the end of my mark, I would just feel completely clear. My mind would be clear. And when I think back to the best spells that I bowled for England, and I reflect on them quite deeply and closely because I remember them so vividly in the book, it was just that absolute clarity of what I was trying to do. But I think on the flip side, when I handled it badly, which I also reflect on in the book, I allowed all sorts of external noise to enter my headspace when I was at the back of my mark, and I'd be having doubts about what I was trying to do. I wouldn't be fully committing to the motion of bowling, and that would kind of spiral to a point where that's when my worst spells in Test cricket were. So yeah, trying to channel those emotions positively, and it's easier said than done, but it takes a fair amount of work to be able to flick those feelings in your mind to be positive things. But I was certainly a better bowler and I did that.
I've heard you talk about this before in interviews and obviously stuff in the book as well. So for you, when you were at the top of the game, nothing really entered your mind. You just got to the end of your match, you turned around, you knew what you were going to do, you run in and buff, delivered, right? And you enjoyed it. It was a challenge. But then when it became difficult for you and there was more pressure in the game, there was so much noise going inside you, you couldn't block out the external stuff, and you just couldn't then control where the ball was going, or your action was all wrong. And is that what you're trying? Is that
yeah, I think
you're kind of saying.
Yeah, I think more the things that lead up to you being at that point. But certainly, yeah, when I think back on the best spells that I bowled, I would be stood at the end of my mark, and I'd have a general plan, but I would trust that what was going to come out of my hand was going to be too good for the person at the other end. And so you'd have like a general plan of wanting to be outside off or whatever it might be. But knowing that my natural attributes would be too good for the person at the other end, or believing that, was what allowed me to grow in confidence and completely focus on getting the person out at the other end. Whereas when I had my bad periods and changing my run-up in 2012 was a trigger for me messing with my action, which then messed with my confidence, and that's when I really hit a deep spiral in 2014 when I got sent home from that Ashes tour for not really being in a state that I could play international cricket. All of my battles wouldn't be focused at the other end, they'd be focused inside my own head and questioning everything that I was doing.
When you look back now, it's because I think it's so important, because I went through where I had an injury to my left foot early on in my career, and people tried to change my action. And the way I brushed it, it was amazing really. 95, we went there, and I remember this in a warm-up game. We're playing in Durban, and I were running in open chested, and I've always been quite side on, you know. I were open chested, and ball were coming out 5 mile an hour slower. And Atherton, of all people, come up to me and said, "What the are you doing?" He said, "Just bin that and go back to doing what got you in the first place." And instantly, luckily, I was someone who could just switch off like that. I did. I went back. That's it. Side on action, you know. So, but I was trying to do something, just wasn't me whatsoever. And I would have kept doing it, but it needed one of my teammates to pick me up on it. And me for actually to listen to him and register it and just say, yeah, he's right. What am I doing? And I just changed. What you know now, what would you do differently?
Well, I'd never shorten my run up. I would never have done that. And the reason I did it was because they changed the law for it, be it from when I was kneeing the stump, for like a 3 or 4 month period, I'd knee the stump. And Graham Smith complained about it, and the umpires called it a dead ball in that game, and that set a precedent for it always to be a dead ball from that moment forward. Then the ICC changed the law for it to be a no ball. So, and when it's a no ball, there's consequences. In white ball cricket, it's a free hit. The wicket that you take on that delivery doesn't count, clearly. So I was kind of forced into a corner where I was looking for a short-term fix to a problem that I needed to iron out, but with no gap in the schedule. I didn't feel as though I could change my running style in a short enough amount of time. So I was looking, it was basically a plaster to stick over the problem, to get me through another big series and then into an Ashes year. But that decision and shortening my run-up made my arms short, made my delivery stride short. And all the gifts that I was given when I was born in terms of my height and my ability.
You were born in my height.
Yeah, exactly.
You were suddenly my height.
With no skill. But it was like, it just messed with the fundamentals of my bowling action. And then it took me about 18 months to fully untangle the mess that I'd got myself into as a result of going to that short run-up. So yeah, if I were to go back to one moment in time, it would be at the nets in Napier in New Zealand in 2013 when I tried this short run-up for the first time. The following day I used it in an ODI and I bowled like 95 miles an hour and got none for 30 in an ODI. So I believed that it was a good thing for me at the time. So then I continued to do it for about 6 months, and that 6 month period is what caused me a lot of pain through the rest of my career.
Have you, look, I'm a massive golf fan, I know you are. I've seen you on the golf course a few times, but bump into you on all sorts of golf courses. But I think one of the things we see in golf and the mentality around change, you see so many, I mean, some of the best golfers that have ever lived, they get to where they win majors and they totally change their swing. And then they wonder why their game goes to pot for 2 or 3 years. And some never come back. Some never come back from it. Do you see that kind of, what happens in golf to what can happen in cricket?
Yeah, I think when you're playing at the very top of sport, and the best players that I think of, they're always looking to get better. And I think when you're there in that moment, every decision you make is trying to make you better, isn't it? I suppose if you're a golfer, you hit the ball 300 yards, you'd love to hit it 350 yards. So you change something that you believe is going to do that. I was forced to change my action because of kneeing the stump, but also for that period, I bowled as quick as I'd ever bowled in my career. I was consistently 93, 94 miles an hour. So I believed that by making that change, I was positively affecting my cricket, without subconsciously realising it was messing with the fundamentals of what I was good at, which was using a long run-up, the length of my arms, the length of my body in order to get the ball down there with pace and zip.
And do you think the Ashes series creates extra pressure anyway? And it probably wasn't, in hindsight, the best time to change it. If it would have been in a smaller tour, you might have had a little bit of leeway and a little bit like a, do you know what I mean? It might not be as much pressure and the opposition won't have been as strong and you might have got away with it, and then you build confidence and think, actually, in the long term, it could have been better. But you'll never know that now, because you immediately, when you went back, started untangling all the problems that had got inside your head and your action.
Yeah, exactly. And so there was a moment in time where Angus Fraser and Richard Johnson, who were director of cricket and bowling coach at Middlesex at the time, sat me down. It was like,
what have they done?
Yeah, it was like an intervention. They sat there and they said, what have you done? Like, this isn't you. This doesn't look like you bowling. And that was a real watershed moment for me. And that was just before the Ashes of 2013 at home, straight into an away series. It's where we had the back-to-back Ashes series, so 10 Ashes test matches in a row. And about a month before that first Ashes test, my brain was going 1,000 miles an hour, because I've got two of the people that I trust the most and that are the closest to me telling me that what I am doing doesn't look like me. So then that just kicked off this like massive panic cycle of basically trying to make everything look above the surface calm, and that everything's in order, but underneath my legs were going bananas.
I can imagine. So because of your experience of that and the pressure that it put on you, and it wouldn't have been a comfortable place for you, because obviously you created a lot of news from Australian media and English media. So you now looking at players, and because now you're in the media, you write, you've got books, you commentate on radio and TV, you have a big voice in the game now. Do you actually look at the team now that are going to be going over to Australia and think, right, what advice would you give to them in handling that pressure and handling some of the stories that are going to be written about their game?
Yeah, I think that's probably the most challenging bit on top of the cricket. The cricket is clearly a good standard. Australia are formidable at home. We've not won a test match there since 2011, which I think signifies the task ahead. We're not very good, yeah. Going out there. It's a really challenging place for English players to go and play. And I think that the press stuff on top of that does add a little bit to it. If I were to give advice, I'd say don't read the press. And I think that this team are very good at insulating themselves within their bubble and reinforcing the messages that they are trying to send throughout the team. So I think that Stokes and McCullum, the way that they play, and this is why I'm so optimistic about this England team going to Australia. When I look back to 2013-14, we hid away, we were meek, we were timid, we got hammered. The same happened in 17-18. The COVID series, 21-22, the guys were forced to stay indoors and you just sit with your own thoughts the whole time. I see the guys now as going over there and pushing back against Australia, and I think that's what you have to do in order to win down there. You have to earn their respect by standing there and saying, I'm going nowhere, I'm here for 5 test matches, and you're not just going to push me over and walk all over me. And I don't think Stokes and McCullum will let that mindset come into their team, so all of that external noise will just bounce back. And they have a great opportunity to turn the tide the other way, to start making the questions be asked towards the Australian team as opposed to themselves, and that's when you're really on top.
So what you're saying is that you would have liked to have played in this culture that the current England team have got. I definitely would have. I think I played in an era, Finney, where we didn't know whether we was playing one test match to the next. They reacted to the media. We had 3 selectors and we had great players. I mean, luckily I think I was only dropped once, and that was at the end of my career when I had 1 leg, right? But I think some players like a Butcher, Rampakash, Hick, I mean, they were in and out. Carrick got 100 wickets and didn't get picked for the Ashes, you know, in one tour. He didn't get picked. Yeah. I mean, him were a great partnership, and they didn't pick him for the Ashes. So I think what we both agree on is that we'd have liked to have played in this kind of culture this England team have got now, and the way they go about things, and the continuity of central contracts and selection.
Yeah, I look at and I think about my best spells that I bowled, or the best games that I had, and we talked about it earlier, touched on it, the clearness of mind when I stood at the back of my mark without the external noise, without pressure of selection, thinking if I don't go under 3 and over, I'm dropped for the next game.
Absolutely.
I think it flicks your mindset into thinking how you can positively affect situations. And I think that the way that they pick the team and the way that they encourage their players and the mindset that they want their players to find, I probably would have found that clearness of thought at the end of my mark more frequently than I did in my career. But I would also caveat that with saying that I was very lucky to play in a really good England team. I was very young in it, but I played in a team that was full of 10 like established, excellent players. Would I change a few more test matches and a few more wickets for not winning the 3 Ashes series that I did, or not winning away in India and South Africa? That's the hardest question that I get asked, because I feel like I'm contradicting myself in saying that I would have taken more wickets, maybe, under this current regime, or would have been able to play like myself more often in this current regime. But it would be difficult to swap the wins for that, I think.
I agree with you. I think having experienced and seen players within my team, I know if they played in this modern day game, would average so much better because of the environment they would be in. People like Hick and Rambikash, who I think are generation players, I think they were brilliant. And both of them, when you look at their record, underachieved on paper, but they were so much better than that. They were unreal players. And I think if they played now, they would both average late 40s, 50.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people that probably look on this era with envy now, especially from around when you played, and think I would have loved to have been backed and trusted, and to the team not be selected with what way the wind was blowing. Yeah, and I think that's something that these guys should be commended for. I think they cop a lot of stick for stuff unnecessarily, actually, because of what they're trying to do. But I think if you've played and you understand how difficult international cricket is anyway, without then heaping more pressure on top of your players, all I see when these guys are doing what they do is that they're trying to alleviate all of that external pressure so that people can just focus on being the best versions of themselves when they play cricket.
And now a man who was part of a group of touring cricket fans on my first Ashes series back in 1994, Paul Leafy Burnham from the Barmy Army.
Right, mate, Barmy Army,
Yes.
fascinating when it first came on the scene. I was lucky enough to be on my first Ashes tour in 1994, mate, and I must admit, I didn't know what to expect going to Australia, and I'll be honest with you, I did not expect the support we had from the English supporters, and obviously mainly that what became the Barmy Army, and you were there from the start, mate.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, I can't tell you how much it meant to every single player when they were out there to know they got that support.
Yeah.
The songs were magical, and when you're out there in the pressure of the moment and you're playing and you start laughing at some of the songs, how many dollars it got to the pound?
Yeah.
We came here with our backpacks, you with a ball and all those songs were just magical, mate.
Yeah, Captain Cook only stopped for a ...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, mate, it was brilliant. And obviously you'll remember that tour, Brisbane. I mean, Brisbane, we didn't go to set the Barmy Army up. We went to go and support the England cricket team. I know my co-founder was chatting to you earlier about our example in Newcastle when you had to use a payphone to ring up your missus to find. It must have been
Well,
Liam,
we had no
I guess.
mobiles, we had no mobiles then.
Can I use the hotel phone? I mean, we found the whole thing very amateur from an England perspective, and then we were shocked by some of the abuse the Aussies were giving. I know you quite like the old Tufnell one, lend us your brain, we're making an idiot, that type of stuff.
Yeah,
but
I love that
it
one.
was actually quite abusive. So as a fan sitting there, we're getting stuffed, which we did do in Brisbane and Melbourne, as you know. Warnie's hat-trick, and Brisbane was over pretty quickly. We were 2-0 down properly. Then we got to Sydney, and I know you're like this anyway, but you were actually the inspiration in Sydney, right? You're 50 on that Saturday morning when we were all suddenly together, because in Melbourne we weren't, 80, 90, whatever thousand. We weren't together in Melbourne. We weren't together in Brisbane. I wanted to be with every other England fan. But in Sydney, we got thrown together.
Yeah.
And
I
the big one was that Saturday morning when you come out to bat and got 51 and started smashing McDermott, was it? Yeah, McDermott for sixes. I think you got out to him in the end as well. But that 50 was, and that got the Barmy Army going. And then we were really getting flying. And then, of course, we couldn't bowl the seamers on the last day, right? And I think that was the same test Atherton declared on Hick, but which no one quite understood. But anyway, and then he got dropped. But that's another thing. But the Sydney stuff was when it started, because it was the old Sydney Hill. Yep. We were all thrown together, and all of a sudden, what we wanted to do in Brisbane and Melbourne, i.e. be together, happened. And you were the catalyst for it with your batting, and then we got really into it. And I think they were 6-7 down, and then all of a sudden we only could bowl spin.
Well, the Slater run out, you must
yes,
remember that.
which, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that was 98 though. Was that the next one? the Slater run out, when he was out by about that far.
Might have been
DRS
Melbourne
was
98,
still,
actually.
yeah, he was still baby steps then, wasn't it? So
I don't think there was any hard luck stories in Sydney. I think Sydney
well,
was...
except for the rain. Except the rain, that stopped us winning, didn't it?
Yeah, okay. But
Overcast.
a little bit, yeah. We could have won in Sydney, and then obviously we won in Adelaide, and went to Perth, and it was we got absolutely thrashed in Perth.
But when you started all this up, right, many years ago, I mean, it is a long time ago now. Would you have expected it still to be going now, stronger than ever?
I get criticised when I say yes to this answer, because Darren, the buzz that I got and the feeling. Bearing in mind, I was a decent club cricketer. I went there 30 years of age. I hadn't watched cricket because I was always playing cricket. I'm not going to go and watch cricket on a Saturday. I'd play it. And when I got there, the buzz that I got, even though we lost the Ashes, the buzz that I had, I couldn't wait to get to South Africa for the next trip. And I thought, this is something that I didn't know existed. It was amazing, and all these people are going to enjoy it. So I did think, based on my own psychology of how much I loved it, I thought this could really get bigger and bigger. And it was very much a lifestyle for me. Became serious when we started doing travel, which was 2003. So it was a lifestyle for me. Right, where are we going next? Right, South Africa, 97, Caribbean, 98-9, back to Australia for the first time, but organised. 99 World Cup at home, which we tried to get the Barmy Army going at home, and of course we didn't even qualify for the...
Well, we didn't have a great side.
No, you didn't. No, yourself excluded. We looked good on paper occasionally, right? But the 90s was tough, mate. And then obviously it all came together after your time, I guess. But 05 was clearly was a big thing. In England, the support was suddenly brilliant, and then people wanted to go on the tour. That 06-07 tour, we took thousands.
Yeah, have you been more accepted more now by county? Because I think at the original there was a bit of like, oh, we don't want the Barmy Army, or we don't want this here, because it had this reputation, didn't it, of like just being young lads out on the lash all day. But I think now it's softened, and they've realised the importance of all you guys and girls, and there's people from all walks of life now in that Barmy Army group. It's huge.
To be honest with you, mate, it was like that at the start anyway. It just seemed like we were all young. I mean, I was 30 years of age then, so it was a younger demographic then. So we've all got older naturally, the people that started it, but it's not the same people. Yeah. Everyone thinks it's some of the guys earlier were just saying, oh, how do you all afford to do it? It's not the same people. You see the odd same face, same trumpeter, same, Vic Flowers who used to wave the flag with the big hat on, myself, a few of the others that you recognise a face. But most of the people will do, I don't know, I think the average number of tours per person is 2.2 tours or something, 5 or 6 away tests. So people go through that, and then they suddenly, I don't know, get married or have kids or whatever it is. So it isn't the same people, but it's become a lifestyle, and people look at it and go, you know what, I want to do that when I retire, or when the missus lets me, or whatever the scenario is, when the husband lets me, or I get plenty of girls come on the tour. So it's so to answer your questions, yes, I did think it was going to get that big, because I was having, bearing in mind I loved playing cricket, and this was so good that we could get behind you or whoever it is and actually make a difference. And then sometimes the bowlers would come up, and they come up to you at the end and annoy the hell out of you guys.
Well, we used to go into bars with you.
Exactly.
When we had a test win, which were not many in the 90s. Yeah. But after a series, the lads always went and had a drink with the Barmy Army. Always appreciated it. Because when you're away from home and you're away from your family, and you're going to get some stick from the Aussie crowd or South African crowd, wherever you go, right? It's always good to know that you might have 100, 200, even 250, 300 people there who are all supporting you and will make more noise than probably the other 20,000 people in the ground. Yeah,
and obviously that happens in football week to week, right? The away support is very often stronger than the home support. And what we've done is, in the cricket, bearing in mind that type of support wasn't really around in cricket until it's certainly not come from the Aussies. I mean, the Australian support is very poor, and they've still got the same song 30 years later. And the same with the South Africans. There isn't the support. You go to the subcontinent, and it's more noise as opposed to singing. It's just a real, as you would have, a real sort of buzz. I bet you can't walk anywhere when you're in India, for example. They're all over you. So it's different feelings, but we've loved it. And knowing that we can make a difference, even if one of the guys comes up to us and go, you know what, put a couple of yards of pace on me during that spell when you were getting behind me, and Hoggy's been a classic. He's come up to me, and I love Hoggy to death. Give me a hug a couple of times. That actually you helped me get that wicket because I suddenly fired up.
It does.
You've said it to me. Simon Jones has said it to me.
Absolutely, mate. Releases the
Harmy said it
pressure.
earlier, right? So if you can get a wicket by making some noise, why wouldn't you? I can't play. I can't go and play for my beloved England. But what we can do is make a slight difference every now and then. Even if it's one wicket during a series, we never win by a distance anyway, do we? We're England, right? So one wicket could be the difference between winning and losing a series. And that's our mentality. That's how it keeps going all the time. If there's someone being a bit out of order, there's plenty of yellow cards given out all the time. But the general, the absolute final view for the Barmy Army is that we are there to maximise the support for the England cricket team. And when we see them giving us 100%, as you always used to do, and most England players have always done, but we don't. It's not like football, mate. We don't go at the players. We're not trying to sack the manager after 3 games or get rid of the team. We will give 100%. All we expect back is 100% from the players, and then that relationship off the pitch has always been there, and it's great. Boys love it. Of course we do.
Next week, I'm going to have a look at fast bowling. Thanks for listening.